Introduce to you all our host for this year. How many folks have heard of the name Rich Benowski before? Well, he's a legend amongst concertina players and musicians alike because they differ. And then he's even respected by drummers. So here's a little bit of background of him. When he was 9 years old, his father Ted drove him to Chicago and he purchased his first Star Concertina at the age of 9 years old. At that time, he started to take lessons. He learned very quickly. He had an instructor from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a gentleman named Adam Benowski, who taught him how to play the concertina, taught him all styles of music, and he joined the Pittsburgh Concertina Club. He enjoyed Polish-style polka music. Over the years, he started to listen to other styles of music, and he heard a band out of Massachusetts called the Golden Brass. How many folks remember the Golden Brass?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, the Golden Brass at one point, that was their name when they started, and then at one point they changed their name to the New Brass, and it was Roger Lickfala, Mitch Biskup, and all the fellas, Steve Dudas, and that was the New Brass. Well, that was what caught Rich's ear and lit a fire in him to play Polish-style polka music. From there, he performed with some greats like Wanda and Stephanie. He performed with the great Little Wally. He performed with the concertina great Casey Shabirsky. He played with Bruno Mikos and the Harmony Stars, where I think he caught the attention of all the Polish-style musicians and concertina players in our industry. Eventually, Rich left the fold of Bruno Mikos and the Harmony Stars to start his own group, The Brass Connection. How many folks have heard of TBC?
Of course.
The Brass Connection.
Yeah.
So those fellows were growing in a different direction. They said, we're going to go off on our own and do our own thing. And Rich was the leader of that band for, Rich, how many years? 8 years he was the leader of the Brass Connection. Took him in a whole different direction, and he has tons of fans who are TBC fans and tons of concertina players who were themselves Rich Benowski fans. There's a few musicians that I know. There's a lot of great musicians in polka music, but there's few musicians to me that influence people in a way that it changes the way people play that instrument going forward. And to me, when you heard Rich Benowski and his unique style of playing concertina, that changed the way a lot of concertina players played their instrument going forward. A lot of musicians wanted to emulate his runs and his style and the quickness and the parts that he played. And I think guys like that are the legends in our industry, because not only their influence, but they changed the direction of the way that instrument was played in polka music. So thank you, Rich Benowski, for that. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome this year's host, the legend, Mr. Rich Benowski.
Okay, thank you, Andrew, and welcome everybody to the 41st Litwin Concertina Jam. And we also want to remind everybody, this is of course, we can't forget, this is the 50th year for the polka fireworks. Now, the first family in polkas, the Blazonczyk family and their team, have committed 50 years of good music to Western Pennsylvania and for everybody that travels here from around the country. So please, let's show some gratitude for that commitment to the polka music. And this was a festival that at the time was unique, and it changed the way other festivals were planned and delivered. So it's all appreciated, all very good. And a lot of you are wearing stickers, not that it says, hi, my name is, it's the first year you were at the festival. My first year was in 1977. I was playing with Bruno Mikos Orchestra at the time. And I remember, and Johnny was maybe 3 or 4 or 5. But his dad came to practice and said, hey, we're playing Seven Springs. Oh, great. We love to ski. We love to go to Seven Springs. He said, Bruno said, no, it's in July. Bruno, nobody goes to Seven Springs in July. Boy, was I wrong, and boy, am I glad that Bruno brought us up here in July. So, to his honor, we're going to start off the jam with Concertina Polka, and Johnny's going to lead us into it. Great start. So the Concertina Jam was Stevie Litwin's vision. His vision, and it was 1984 that Stephen Liddell wanted just a few of Steve's concertina enthusiast buddies to celebrate Steve's birthday. So of course we got together and played concertina. With each passing year, Steve's vision was for this to be informal, unrehearsed event, and I think we're going to check the boxes on both of those today because we're here to have fun, we're here to play some songs, and to pay homage to Steve for what he started, which I think we can easily call the biggest concertina jam east of the Mississippi. Or the entire world, we don't know yet. But it's all good with Steve. And there's a t-shirt hung up behind Junior and Tony over there that has silhouettes of the original group that was celebrating Steve's birthday. And that would have been Steve, Butch Herman, Bill and Mary Lou Cerniak were with us. Tony Kempinski was there. I was there along with Wally Stanek, who was Bill Cerniak's horn player, I believe. And of course, Anita was there to record and start taking some pictures of the event. So we look back fondly at that time. It was very simple, but it did grow over the years. It did grow over the years. Eddie Blazonczyk Sr. showed up in the 90s and told us, if we don't get to another room, we're going to break the floor. So he found us a great room down here to do that. And so we would like to honor some of the first members there, especially the ones not with us today, pay homage to them. We're going to have Butch Herman lead us into Steve's favorite polka, the Ice Cream Polka. Okay, and when you came in today, there was a tag that asked you what your first year was at Seven Springs Polka Festival. So we have a couple of hostesses in the crowd with microphones, Kristen and Monica, that after this next tune, they may come up and ask you where you're from and what was your first year here. We know there's a lot of local people that come to this, but people also travel too. So after we play Circus Polka, Kristen or Monica may come up and ask you where you're from and when did you get here for the first time. Circus Polka. We'll all start, or I'll start. Also, we want to give a nice round of applause to the horn section over here. It cleans up whenever we go astray.
For our crowd participation, I'm back here with some Anders. So